Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, BRL Exia 1984, and in the booth with me is BRL Aldifer. Aldifer, how are you tonight?
Doing just fine. It's a lovely Monday evening here in the States, and we thank all of you for joining us around the world as we get ready for what should be an amazing qualifying session here for the Breakout Racing League Tier 3 Formula One drivers around this beautiful Mexican circuit. 17 turns and really no elevation change whatsoever, but a lot of tricky chicanes and a lot of very slow traction zones make up this track. Should be a very, very fun qualifying session.
It is most definitely it will be. As you and I were both talking about the championship series prior for the Tier 3. Now, SF1 Rhoads will have it in the bag as long as Loki has to win the next 3 races, and Rhoads has to finish out of the top 10 in order for Loki to take the championship series. Now, with that being said, Mexico is not really the easiest track to say qualify. You can lose a lot of time in the first chicane through the first turns 2 and 3. I'm sure you know you set a blistering lap here at Tier 2 on Saturday night. I mean, what are these drivers like Loki who knows that he has to finish up at the top? What does he have to do to put in that perfect lap as we see him on his out lap here?
Well, really, the main thing is getting through that last small portion of the track he just went through. The S-turns throughout Sector 2 really don't flow like what you would like them to. They're more or less a series of offset corners. If you look at the map on the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see that Sector 2 begins just before a very slow chicane that leads up to a double right-hander, and then you make your march down the short chute to come into this X section, and you really have to eat the curbing here to get that fast blistering time. We saw in Tier 1, they ran a 113.8 for the pole. Tier 2, the pole was set at a 114.4. Here today, I'm thinking that most likely pole's going to be close to a 114.6, maybe 114.7 for some of these guys. As we see Loki purple in Sector 1, he now comes into this very, very treacherous set of traction zones right here. Very easy to mess up your lap and throw off your entire lap time. He gets through the double right-hand apex very well. Let's see how he does through these S's. Scrubs a lot of speed. He goes a little wide there. He's not deploying a lot of ERS either, but he does purple Sector 2 again. Goes very wide there on entry into the stadium section. Now, this is one of the trickiest parts of the track, getting this turn right here, just right, the exit, and then getting the entry here just perfect. He does very well throughout turns 16 and 17. He's going to come across at a 116.8.
And here we have Sexy 9. He is also on soft compound tires. He's going through Sector 1. It looks like he invalidated based on the mini-map. Let's see, we have a different tire strategy here. Looks like SF1 Rhoads, he is possibly looking at the hard compound tires. Now, another driver for us to look at here is the gentleman in third right now on his outlap is Get My Pipe. He put the car on pole in USA last week and showed a resounding performance there, showing that he is definitely a very, very fast driver. So we'll have to keep an eye on him on those medium compound tires, as well as Ringwraith, a driver that has raced against you, and also like me or not, he's also on the medium compound tires. So those drivers we're definitely going to have to keep an eye out as the strategy goes.
Well, just looking at it right now, Exia, the guys that are out here on mediums, as we see Like Me or Not come through in the Toro Rosso to set a 118 flat, these guys that are out on the mediums are out on them way too early to make it a very optimal lap time. So we can pretty much figure that everybody that's on the mediums and the hard compound right now is just thinking about going out and doing a few install laps, just get the feel for the track back, because we did sit in the lobby for a good 15 minutes waiting on all of our drivers to get here. So I expect all of them to qualify on softs. Even some of the guys that we see on hards right now will most likely put their times in on softs.
Very true. go down the order here. We have Wrathful. He's always been a driver throughout this whole entire season. As ER10 sets the new provisional pole with a 16.5 as the grip is starting to come in with 12 minutes and 50 seconds left to play. We have a yellow sector 3. Looks like ER10's moving up. Get My Pipes. It's the fastest medium compound tire with a 16.9. Looks like we have Big Mr. Brown. He's slotting in with an 18.7. Canada King. He's shown a lot of strong pace throughout the whole season towards the end of it. You know, he's on those softs with an 18.5. Mad Marlin. He's also did a 17.5 on the medium compound tires. So now, like you said, you know, the grip is coming in for a lot of these drivers that, you know, you have to wait for the traction to build in for these drivers to actually get a lot of pace out of these harder compound tires. Your championship leader right now, he is out on hards on his out lap. We also have Slingshot. He is on a fast. He's on a flyer on softs. We'll ride along with him as he's coming up to turn 1. See how he takes this corner. Nice and smooth. Turn 1 here at Mexico is definitely a tricky one because if you don't line it up right, I'm sure you can agree, Aldifer, it really messes you up. As looks like Slingshot went purple in the first sector. Definitely keep an eye on this and see how he... Ooh, looks like Canada King loses it, trying to get out of the way and puts his car into a wall.
That was actually Sexy that put it in the wall, allowing
wow.
Slingshot to get by in the Mercedes. And Slingshot now doing a very good job as he comes through Sector 2. The car looks very planted through the S's. Mercedes always builds such a great car that can change directions so quick. Unfortunately, he did not purple Sector 2. Maybe running a little bit of low downforce that really helped him throughout Sector 1. Takes second gear throughout the first 2 turns through the stadium. Gets through here very nicely, but unfortunately a little slower than what it should be. So I believe Slingshot's probably running low downforce to try to help him down the straightaways.
Probably, but he set a time in at 1:18.6. Sexy 9 went up to second with a 16.7. So right now, ER10 in that Ferrari, he's been a very big mid-pack driver throughout the season. And now he's starting to show off a little bit of talent here at Mexico. So we'll definitely keep an eye on that as he goes throughout this qualifying session. As we have 10 minutes to play, we're going to jump over here with SF1 Rhoads. He's in Sector 3 on those hard compound tires. Looks like he has Wrathful right behind. Wrathful did it at 1:18 flat. Now we do know through Tier 2, the main strap for some of these drivers as Rhoads dives into the pits. Here comes Wrathful. He invalidated his lap. Wrathful's just looking at putting laps in as he goes through around this track. The tire strategy was soft, medium. Now for Tier 2, for you, Aldifer, to bring you home in second, what was your tire strat at the end of the day?
Well, the original strat was to go softs all the way out to lap 9 and then box for mediums and then go to about lap 24 and pick up another set of mediums. All in all, it was a 2-stop, but we saw throughout Tier 2, even I was having trouble keeping these tires, the soft compound tires, in their temperature window. After just a few laps on that heavy fuel load, I actually lost it on the exit of the second chicane. Right there at turn 5 on my way down to turn 6. So it's very easy to get the rear tires lit up and out of position with the rest of the car. We saw a lot of different strategies throughout Tier 2 though. If I have counted them all correctly, we saw 5 different strategies play out. Different styles of a 1-stop and different styles of a 2-stop. We saw some guys go softs to hards. We saw Weiser Swear, who placed 3rd, went from hards to softs. I went soft, medium, and the winner of the race actually went soft, medium, soft. So there's a lot of different strategies that you can play out here. And these guys here in Tier 3 were able to watch that Tier 2 race and see the different strategies play out. So it's not like they They don't know what can work for this track, but then they have to figure out what works for them, what works for their car and their suspension setup. So I'm very eager to see what strategies these guys run. One thing I wanted to touch on really quickly before I'm through and I hand it back to you, Eggsy, is Get Me My Pipe came across not too long ago to set his fastest lap on mediums, and it's a 1:16.9. That's only 4/10 off of the fastest time we've seen on the softs so far. So I expect Get Me My Pipe to be coming in very soon and putting on a fresh set of soft compound tires and going back out and setting a blistering lap, possibly a 1:15.4, 1:15.5.
And we have Big Mr. Brown. He's actually 7/10 faster on his time right now with medium compound tires. But I do know sometimes at 7/10, based on this Sector 3 here for the stadium, you can pick up a lot of time just out of that stadium section. So we're going to ride with him real quick right as he crosses the line. And he does. He jumps to a 17.1 on medium, right behind Mad Marlin, who jumps over to the soft compound tires. And we're just going to do a quick shout out for the viewers here. We've got Ritzy Raccoon. He's watching. We also have Mixed Face Taste. He is rooting out, saying Like Me or Not is winning the race. So it looks like Like Me or Not has a fan here, as we have Mad Marlin coming through the stadium section on those soft compound tires. He's been a very fast driver throughout all season. So we'll see as he comes around. What does he do when he crosses? He does a 15.4. He sets the provisional pole. So now he's challenging everybody. What can you do? We're going to jump down Ring Wraith. He did a 20.5. Looks like he invalidated his lap. Wrathful's out on his outlap on medium compound tires. Sexy 9, here he's coming through. He's 1/10 faster right now. But he didn't purple his time. As he going into Sector 2, coming up to these S's. Now the question is did Mad Marlin show his hand too soon here to put that provisional time?
No, he did not. He did not. I actually rode on board with him for that entire lap, and he actually left some time behind in the S's, as we've just seen on my screen. Sexy has just purpled Sector 2, so Marlin definitely left time behind, but Sexy did not purple Sector 1. Let's see what he does through Sector 3 here as he goes very wide throughout the final turn.
He slots in with a 16.6. Oh.
And he actually only improved by 1/10 there.
So he must have lost a lot of time going through that stadium section. And we'll keep an eye now. Get My Pipe, the driver you were talking about, he is out on medium compound tires. Question is, I believe he's possibly contemplating going out and starting on another set of mediums. Wrathful, he's out on mediums. Let's see where he's out as he's going through. Jules, who has yet to set a time. He's been one of those dark horses in the race. He's actually behind the Sexy 9 and Get My Pipe here. He could possibly be pulling in. Doesn't look like he's really pushing it. Nope, it's his outlap. I apologize. So if these drivers stay out ahead of him as he goes past Sexy 9, especially Get My Pipe, he could use Get My Pipe to pull in a tow. I do know back in last season for Split 2, I was able to stay close enough, but not too close to Dezonic, where I kept getting a slipstream up to all the corners, which was allowed me to get 4/10 to put the car on pole position here at Mexico. So we're going to ride along with Run the Jules as he's coming up to turn 1. See what he's able to set on those medium compound tires. So we have Big Mr. Brown, Like Me or Not. He's coming
invalidated.
Out. Ooh.
Run the Jules just cut, I believe, right over the apex of the very first turn, so he's invalidated this lap.
Now, you talked about Get My Pipe setting a blistering time on those medium compound tires here as he's back out on another set, or probably the same set, but Wrathful
it's the same set.
But Wrathful set a 17.1 to his teammate as the Racing Points are sitting side by side for 5th and 6th. And Get My Pipe invalidates his lap with 3 minutes to play.
Now the big question is, as he goes through Sector 3, is he asking the team if he can come in and box and put on a new set of medium or a new set of softs? Does he have the time? You can get out here with about 140 left as he is diving into the pits. Exit. He may jump on a set of softs and come back out. You need about 1 minute and 40 seconds from the time that you leave your garage to get all the way around
BR10 has
here.
purpled Sector 2, but it didn't look like he purpled Sector 1. And he's sitting right behind Mad Marlin. Can he bester Marlin's time as he comes through the last
He's
corner
currently
here?
only 2/10 up.
Nope.
He actually lost time.
Jump down, like me or not. He's coming through Sector 2. He's 2/10 faster now on his time. He's going through the S's.
Shout out to one of our owners in chat. I put the question out there to give us a prediction as to who will be our pole sitter for today. Maverick believes it'll be SF1 Rhoads in the Red Bull.
SF1 Rhoads is coming out on the medium tires. He has yet to set a lap time. It looks like Slingshot is diving in the pits. Like me or not, does a 16.2. He puts it up there at second. What's interesting is Ring Wraith still has yet to set a very strong competitive time as he's sitting there in the 11th with a 120.5. He's really trying to make that Haas car work and do everything he possibly can. And we'll just keep an eye also and see where... Oh, Ring Wraith goes purple.
Wraith is actually just purpled Sector 2.
See what he can do. Through the stadium section he goes. Up to the last corner. Still has a lot of ERS to use. Back end's getting a little squirrely. Puts it.
He goes P2!
With a 15.5. He's called the challenge for Marlin. So we have 43 seconds left to play. Get My Pipe managed to get out on softs. Wrathful is out on soft. We're going to ride aboard Rhoads right now on his last flyer and his only flyer, so he has to set a time or he's starting in the back of the pack. As he comes up to turn 1, nice and smooth, trying to stay away from the curves.
Now you have to ask yourself, though, Eggsy, would it be more beneficial for him to save this set of fresh mediums and not use them at all, not put a time in and start in the back? Because we've seen how turn 1, this first chicane, can be very dangerous. It's almost like the braking zone at Monza for turn 1. Very treacherous, very dangerous, especially with 19 other cars around you.
Very true. Mad Marlin
and Marlin with a grid penalty.
So that's going to
promote the Ring Wraith to P1.
Wow, what a stunning event as Jules has retired from the session. Rhoads purple his Sector 2. And what he can do, his rival Loki is sitting 7th right now. Loki is still on his out lap, but I don't think Loki's going to make it all the way around. Rhoads goes P7 ahead of his rival with a 1:16.7. Nope, Loki jumps to a 16.1. So now Rhoads has to
Get Me My Pipe
grid.
has invalidated his lap.
Oh, what a shame. Wrathful he will not make it. Wrathful's also invalidated his lap. So Canada King, he crosses the line to a 17.2. So who do we still have going around? Ring Wraith, I believe, is out of fuel. He is. Ring Wraith is pulling.
I believe everybody has completed. Everybody is on their way back to the pit lane. So that is going to be your qualifying order. Ring Wraith is going to be your pole sitter for this race. Due to a collision between himself and Mad Marlin, we're not sure what happened there, but might see something in the incident reports later on.
But that's definitely, it's definitely going to be a huge toss-up of everything going. And with that, with Mad Marlin, we know he's a fast driver. That's going to drop him down to 6th. So now instead of SF1 Rhoads having to battle, you know what I mean, ER10, like me or not, Big Mr. Brown to try to get up there. Now he has to battle Mad Marlin, who's got a 5-place grid penalty. So there you have it. Looks like we have Ring Wraith. He will be starting on pole with Loki second. That's not helping SF1 Rhoads' chances, because if Ring Wraith has any issues at the start and Loki gets the jump, Loki could get the run on him down into turn 1. Big Mr. Brown, he will be sliding up to third. He qualified 4th. Like me or not, 5th. ER10 6th. Sexy 9 7th. SF1 Rhoads, the fastest medium driver, on 8th. Get My Pipe 9th. Wrathful 10th. Cannon King 11th. Jules 12th. And Slingshot 13th. Now, as a driver, you know, you're coming into this. I want to ask you on your perspective. You know, there's an incident, Mad Marlin, Ring Wraith. He falls back. You know, you get that 5 place. What, as a driver, what are you thinking? Alderfer, like, what's your mindset then?
Well, my mindset would honestly be, okay, I've seen the time charts. I am over a second faster than my closest competition that's lining up next to me on the grid. All I need to do is try to maybe beat one of them down into turn 1, because every car that you can get by safely down this pitch straight before the first turn is less dirty air and less horrible wake that you have to drive in. So the faster that he could make his way through the field, the more beneficial it would be for him. One other thing I would touch on is with SF1 Rhoads, our current points leader, he has a large gap to Loki. So he really doesn't need to be racing Mad Marlin or any of the guys in front of him at this stage in the race, because they're on 2 different tire compounds. He needs to bide his time. He needs to bite his tongue. He needs to be very careful with his right foot and take his time, wait for their softs to die off, which will happen around lap 5 or 6 from what we've seen. And his mediums will start to come in, pace will even out, and then as they fall off and go to the pit lane and the clean air opens up in front of him, he needs to bang out those very consistent qualifying laps over and over and over again to try and overcut as many of them as possible.
Now, with that being said, to piggyback off that with the championship is, now, due to the fact that Mitch isn't here, due to a wheel issue, we have Wrathful sitting 4th in the championship, and he's only about 37 points behind Mitch. Now, Wrathful wants to get up there. He wants to move up in those points, and he's sitting behind SF1 Rhoads. So now SF1 Rhoads, like you said, you know, don't try to fight everybody in the front, but there's all those drivers in the back that want to move up in the drivers' championship that are sitting back behind them. So now you have Rhoads who, you know what I mean? I can only speculate is, I don't want to attack too much, but I don't want to be too conservative with the drivers behind him. So now he has to kind of find that, like, you know, happy median for him.
Yeah, no, and I completely agree. These latter races in the year, everybody loves to say when the championship's already basically decided that it's free and clear racing. Well, the championship may be decided for the leader and P2, but there's still usually the battle going on in the points behind them. And like you say, everybody wants those points. So with Wrathful being just behind Mitch by 37 points, he could snag a huge chunk of points here today. So that's another thing that SF1 Rhoads needs to be very cautious of. There are a few drivers behind him that are going to be racing for as many points as they can possibly get today. They don't care about what everybody else is racing for. They only care about what they are racing for. That is the driver mentality that you have to have here in Formula One. So, I mean, to be honest, SF1 Rhoads is sitting in a precarious situation. He needs to bide his time till the softs fade off and he can fade in and run his good, consistent laps. But he also has to be watchful in his mirrors to make sure that nobody's trying to take advantage of him holding back. If he does hold back, he may have a completely different mindset than what you and I have, Exia. He may decide that he's got a good run going into turn 1, might be able to take 1 or 2 of them out throughout the first 2 chicanes, and may continue to try to march his way to the front. We don't know. We'll just have to see whenever we get on track and we finish this formation lap.
Now, with that being said, one of the owners, BRL Maverick, is nice enough to do the information for us. So, Maverick states, Loki needs to win, and Rhoads needs to finish 8th or worse in the championship to continue to Brazil. But if Loki wins and gets fastest lap, then Rhoads can finish P7 or worse to extend the title fight. So pretty much, as long as Rhoads gets 6 or higher, he's locked the championship out based on this. If Loki wins and then the fast lap. So this is definitely going to be a battle of endurance to see how these drivers are going to handle as we start rolling out here with the drivers. We're going to go down the grid here. We have Ring Wraith. He is starting up at front due to a 5-place grid penalty on Mad Marlin, but we'll definitely have to keep an eye on that later. As well as Loki. He is sitting second. Big Mr. Brown third. Like me or not, he's showed a lot of pace throughout the season. His teammate Tia Signs is not here, but like me or not is definitely showing strong for that Toro Rosso. ER10 Motorsports, the Soul Ferrari, sitting fifth. Mad Marlin, the man, he knows he's the fastest on the grid. He's sitting sixth, and he is going to want to push as much as he can. Sexy 9, he's sitting seventh. SF1 Rhoads, the championship leader in that Red Bull, sitting eighth. And he also knows, Get My Pipe is on the mediums. He's sitting right behind him. Wrathful, he's on the medium. He's on the medium compound tires. Both Racing Points going for a very, very different strategy. You know, most of these drivers you would have thought, you know, probably would be running one set of tires versus the other set of tires. Canada King and that Williams, he could mess up this because he's on those soft compound tires as we get ready to get close to the start. Jules is starting on the medium compound tires. And we have Slingshot, the Mercedes driver. He is on those soft compound tires as we go through, as we wait for the drivers to line up. They start forming the grid. Here we go. Drivers are lining up, waiting for the famous 5 lights. 5 lights. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lights. We are off here for the Tier 3 BRL race. Looks like Canada King gets the jump on Wrathful and Slingshot on Jules. Mad Marlin moves up past Year 10. Big Mr. Brown falling back. Loki covering the inside as they go through. Very clean for these drivers as they, looks like a little bit of wing there. Big Mr. Brown, they are going 3 wide to 2 wide. Like me or not, switching back, trying to make something happen. Down on the, looks like we have contact. Mad Marlin loses a little bit of wing. As they go through Sexy 9. Going off the track just a hair. Mad Marlin trying to move up as much as he can. These drivers are looking very racy. His Ring Wraith has now pulled out a 2-second gap.
Wraith did exactly what he needed to do. He ran down into turn 1 exit, and as he came in, he chopped the nose of the car next to him. MRC Loki made it impossible for him to actually turn in safely to that corner and carry the speed that was able to get Wraith away from that. SF1 Rhoads, though, checking on our points leader, fell all the way back down to 12th, has now made a pass past Wrathful for 11th. So Red Bull really falling down the order here as all the soft runners that were behind him are now in front of him.
And now the highest medium tire runner is Get My Pipe. He is sitting 7th right now. The spot where you would have thought SF1 Rhoads would have been. Mad Marlin.
And Big Mr. Brown goes around. There's a lot of contact out of the exit of the first chicane.
Mad Marlin and Big Mr. Brown is falling down the grid. As Mad Marlin looks like he's possibly trying to record what had happened here. As Big Mr. Brown goes past him. As Get My Pipe now slots up to 6th. He makes it past ER10. Now Canada King's in the fight here in 6th place here at Mexico. Canada King looking very racy. Looks like we're going to have a lot of early pits here. Some of the drivers are going to need new wings. Canada King going a little bit wide there. ER10, he's going to try it on the inside. Slingshot's up to 8th. Oh, Slingshot goes on the inside. As Canada King closes the door completely. ER10 completely sends it. Oh, that was so close. We were watching as Slingshot was backing up. Big Mr. Brown almost T-bone Slingshot as we're going to jump back up the grid to get my pipe. Now 7/10 back with SF1 Rhoads. He's now 5/10 back behind Canada King. ER10 gets a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. ER10 and Slingshot diving on pits. They're going to the hards. They're doing the one stop. They're going to try to stretch it out as much as possible. Hello, Skeppy in the chat and Ritzy Raccoon. Here we go. Wrathful, 4/10 back.
Checked out at the front, 3.5 seconds down, 3.8 seconds clear of Loki. And if I'm not mistaken, Loki might be racing with a damaged car.
I do not see any wing damage on his car, but like me or not, is all over the gearbox of him.
Like me or not, showing in the nose as they enter into the stadium section. Like me or not is going to have DRS assistance this time down the pit straight unless he makes a mistake here in these last few corners. But he has a perfect exit. Like me or not, should have a great chance here. He's got the car thrown up into overtake for ERS deployment. DRS now activates. Takes that 8th and final gear, now climbing over 205 mile an hour. He's getting close, but not close enough. Alfa Romeo running very low on their wings today.
As SF1 Rhoads jumps Canada King. So now looks like Wrathful and Run the Jewels on those medium compound tires are going to try to chase him down. As Rhoads now up to 6. So the championship leader is trying to claw back as much as he possibly can. We're going to jump back up here for this battle for second. As Like Me or Not has found a little bit of a rejuvenating spirit in this race, and he really wants to take that podium. As, like you said, Ring Wraith has checked out, but Loki and Like Me or Not have been able to stabilize that time to 3.5 seconds here in this race. Wrathful
I've been following on board with Ring Wraith this entire lap. He's moving very slow, struggling with the car. Now there's a safety car.
Sexy 9 has crashed into the wall, it seems. Now the safety car. So now this is going to play into a big factor as we start to see Loki's diving into the pits. Lightyear's diving into the pits. Ring Wraith is sticking out. Now we see Get My Pipe. He's diving into the pits. And then SF1 Rhoads stays out. Wrathful stays out, which is interesting. I wasn't expecting Get My Pipe to dive into the pits, especially on those medium compound tires. Canada King stays out on those softs. Big Mr. Brown dives in. Mad Marlin dives into the pits.
Actually, I just checked in with Racing Point. They believe that Get My Pipe's pace has been good enough throughout the first 4 green laps of this race. They believe that he can run those hard compound tires to the end and make up positions.
But if you actually go to the video of his car, they did not fix his front wing. He is still missing an end plate. So they put him on hard compound tires, but never fixed the other half of his wing. So it's definitely going to be one tricky race for him on those hard compound tires. So we're going to run through.
Now's the time. He should jump into the pit lane and get that fixed if it's possible. He should come in this time by, because I don't think the safety car is going to come in. He needs to go to pit lane. Racing Point needs to fix the damage on the front end of that car. Missing that left front end plate will make Sector 2 very treacherous.
That is very true. So we're just going to quickly run down the order here as we wait as the safety car goes around. Ring Wraith almost rear-ending the safety car through the stadium section. He's sitting right now at first. From the start of the race, he started pole. SF1 Rhoads, our championship leader, he's sitting second. Wrathful sitting third. Big Mr. Brown gets a 5-second time penalty for corner cutting. Canada King looking very racy. He slots up to fourth. Canada King started. He's moved up 7 places. Both Wrathful, Canada King, and Run the Jewels moved up 7 places. Loki has fallen back 4. He's sitting 6th right now. As like me or not, he is 7th. Get My Pipe, he's sitting 8th. Big Mr. Brown 9th. Mad Marlin, he's sitting 10th on those medium compound tires. Ear 10 is sitting 11th, and Slingshot 12th. Now, BRL Aldifer, are you as a driver? The top 5 haven't pit, but a lot of these drivers here in the top 5, 2 of them have soft compound tires. Do you think they should have switched out those tires versus trying to stretch them out, or do you think they're just utilizing the safety car as a little bit of an extender before they actually dive in to try to stretch out their mediums even longer? Hopefully, I guess you want to call it an undercut under the safety car?
Well, I'm not sure what you would call that. From a driver's standpoint, it doesn't really make that much sense to me. As the pole sitter yesterday, I was in the lead on Saturday, I was in the lead until I made a mistake on lap 5 or 6. And I immediately dove into the pit lane and went on a fresh set of mediums and was able to make my way back up to 2nd place to finish the race after another stop on mediums. I'm not quite sure why these front runners have elected to stay out on their soft compound tires. If I was Wraith, I honestly would have dove in. He did have the time. The safety car came out before he got to the pit lane entry. But now as he's back in the pack up, we see they're coming out of the final corner. When will Wraith take off? He's decided to go immediately. He gets a good run on SF1 Rhoads. He's put about 0.5 of a second between them. SF1 Rhoads being hounded by Wrathful, and just behind him is Canada King. As Canada King loses his touch on Wrathful ever so slightly. We'll see what happens in the braking zone. Behind them, like me or not, swerving, trying to put his nose somewhere to make a move.
Looks like Like Me or Not tapped Jules, and Jules has spun around. Like Me or Not has lost part of his wing. We're going to slide back up to Canada King. Canada King was 0.4 back from Wrathful. Canada King trying to make those softs last as much as possible here as he's trying to take the fight, and he wants a podium here in this race.
It is possible, as I've sat here and thought about it a little bit more, during the safety car, they bought themselves about 2 to 3 laps of tire life. As Canada King goes off.
Canada King loses it in the S's. That's going to fall back.
Almost had an unsafe re-entry just then in front of Slingshot, but he was just to the outside of the track, so it shouldn't catch him a penalty at all. But now we've got a lot of slow cars having to move around these damaged cars, and you can see Canada King losing it still throughout the stadium section. No grip on those soft compounds. He's overheated the surface. He's flashed the surface temps. He's going to have to come in and box this time by.
Mad
Now,
Marlin
as I
tried
was
it on
saying,
the outside.
as Mad Marlin makes a very good move around the outside of the first chicane on Get Me My Pipe. They may have decided to stay out to try to buy themselves an extra few laps so that way they could either jump on the hards and go to the end or make it on mediums and then do a short stint on softs at the end. We'll have to wait and see how it plays out, but right now the top 5 you can cover under a blanket, as now it becomes the top 6 as Mad Marlin and Get Me My Pipe join the party.
Yes, and based on this, if Ring Wraith dives in the pits, based on the time spread, he will most likely fluttered all the way down to, I believe, either 9th or 10th place, just out of the time spread on all these drivers, as of course the top 3 are just hounding him down. They want to get past him, as now Loki is up to 4th. SF1 Rhoads is still 2nd. Candy King gets a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. Mad Marlin, he sets the new fast lap. He's behind Loki. This isn't helping Loki. Mad Marlin's going to look on the inside.
Mad Marlin makes that move stick throughout the braking zone as Canada King decides to call it quits, as it looks like he may have lost it throughout Sector 2 and gone off again. I can see what looks like a Williams sitting off to the side of the track throughout Sector 2. Unfortunately, not close enough with any of these cars to get a good onboard shot of what might have happened, as Canada King has now left the session. So this changes everything. How long could the safety car, or this virtual safety car, last? Is Ringwraith going to get close enough to the pit lane before this virtual safety car ends that he could box and get maybe half of a free pit stop?
As Get My Pike gets a 3-second time penalty on those hard compound tires. Wrathful now, he is 4/10 back from SF1 Rhoads. I do know after talking with him and based on his strategy throughout the week, he's been practicing. Oh, as Like Me or Not gets a drive-through penalty. As Get My Pipe gets the jump on Mad Marlin. He and Mad Marlin both going back and forth between Loki here in this race. Looks like he got the jump on them at the start, but fell back a little bit in the beginning. Now here goes.
DRS is now open for both the cars behind our leader, SF1 Rhoads, and Wrathful pulling up on Wraith very quickly. Wraith positioning his car very well so that if they did get there, they'd really have nowhere to go to try to make the overtake around the Haas. But the Haas has bought himself maybe another lap under that VSC, cooling these tires back off to try and run just that little bit longer.
Oh, Wraithful looks on the inside.
Wrathful goes for a move.
Oh, he has to check up. Can he make it stick? He's looking very racy.
And the more that those two race behind Wraith, the better it makes Wraith's pace. He won't have to worry about those cars being right on his gearbox, as we see Wrathful having a hard time throughout the S's now. Had a lot of understeer through the first portion of those S's, lost a lot of time to SF1 Rhoads. SF1 Rhoads now all over the back of Ringwraith. How much longer can Ringwraith take these soft compound tires? You would think that he'd be boxing this lap or maybe the next lap, but really all he's doing, he's the cork in the bottle right now, holding up every car behind him. Wrathful was able to pull back up to the rear end of SF1 Rhoads and brought everybody with him along for the party. There's no way Ringwraith is going to be able to hold on to this position. SF1 Rhoads going to go by him cleanly down the straightaway before they even get close to the braking zone.
Now here's the thing. Before this main straightaway, I checked. SF1 Rhoads had 100% ERS. Wrathful had 56 and he was still on overtake. So that means SF1 Rhoads, if he wants, he can slap it. Oh, looks like Mad Marlin and Wrathful got tangled up there, and Wrathful crashed out as a safety car.
And that's going to be a safety car. That's a free pit for Ringwraith. Wraith now will be able to box in P2 and slot in with really no repercussions.
Wow, that is definitely something, as now Loki gets a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane. This will help out SF1 Rhoads stretching out those medium compound tires, but due to the fact that now that Ringwraith is most likely going to dive into the pits and change those tires, once that safety car goes away, if Ringwraith goes to hards, Rhoads is going to lose about that 18 to 20 seconds. Based on that pit strategy. So SF1 Rhoads is really, after the pit stop, SF1 Rhoads is really going to have to push, but Loki also is going to have to serve a drive-through there on a little bit fresher medium.
And you can't serve the drive-through under safety car either. All right, so they got the Haas into his pit box. He's actually put on a set of mediums. So since he took those all the way out to the end of lap 11, beginning of lap 12, he should be able to take these mediums comfortably all the way to about lap 25, 26, maybe even 27. If he plays his cards just right during this stint, he could box a second time and put on a set of soft compound tires to get him to the end. But with all these VSCs and safety cars, it's really not helping any of the two-stopper strategies.
That's very true. And we also see Mad Marlin pulled into the pits and retired his car from the race. There was nothing wrong with his car at all through the race. He ended up just choosing to retire it in the pit lane, which has now brought everybody down to 9 drivers here at the Mexican Grand Prix for Tier 3, which is a little bit disappointing, but at the same time, you know, with the safety car, Mad Marlin could have still had been into the fight in this race. Yes, he would have had to work his way up, but still would have helped him out. Now we have Get My Pipe and Slingshot both on hard compound tires. Slingshot starting last, now sitting third on those hard compound tires under this safety car. And SF1 Rhoads still needs to pit. So if Get My Pipe and Slingshot both push, you know what I mean? And if Loki is able to push on Ring Wraith, both of those drivers pitting already, SF1 Rhoads may be a little bit in trouble here under this normal safety car.
Well, if I were SF1 Rhoads, this right now is almost resetting the field when you think about it in terms of the two stoppers. Just in hindsight, I realized that my comment earlier was partially wrong. If SF1 Rhoads were to come in last lap, or if he comes in this lap and puts on another set of mediums, he would basically be reset with the cars behind him. Yes, it would put him behind them, but it would keep him on the same stop strategy. Now, Ring Wraith really sitting in the catbird seat. He's got way better tires than the 3 cars in front of him, and he out-qualified all of them by some margin. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see the Hash driver back up front before too long.
That's very true with him on those softer compounds versus the 2 harder compounds. Jules, he's definitely going for a completely different strategy. He jumped on those soft compound tires. So if he's able to push, like Jules is able to push on those softer tires, which I believe the game said it was about 1.6 seconds faster than the hard compound tires as the 2 second and third place drivers, he could at least get up there to where when everybody decides to do their second stop, help him out in the overall long run.
Yeah, just looking here, the safety car is not going to come in, so SF1 Rhoads elects to stay out. So I'm not sure what the strategy is that he's running. Is he running these tires all the way out to about lap 16 or 17 and boxing for a set of hards? Or is he going to try to milk these mediums since we've had so many VSC and safety car laps out to the point where he could run a one-stop to softs? It is feasible because these medium compound tires hold on for a long time. It's just at this track, the guys on the 2-stop are genuinely faster. But with all these slow laps that we've had behind the safety car, he hasn't worn his tires down like everybody else did with their softs. Could he make these tires go the distance to about lap 24 to 25 and put on a set of soft compound tires and go those last 10 or 11 laps?
It is possible. You know, as we've seen Rhoads when he's racing, he's not really in a whole lot of ERS. With his overtake, his tires have always been very, very well managed in this race. You know, we don't see Rhoads with a penalty or anything else like that. We do know Get My Pipe is still missing half of that front wing back there. So anything, as we see the safety cars in this lap, will SF1 Rhoads be able to pull a big enough gap to get away from Get My Pipe? Here they come into the stadium section. What can they do? He is really backing this grid up, trying to make it happen. He's put his car in high already as he comes up to the last corner. Now an overtake.
Wraith preparing his car as well, but he's getting held up by Slingshot. Slingshot leaving a humongous gap between he and P2. Wraith is going to take advantage and make the pass before they even
as
get close
ER10 loses
to the
it in
braking
the last
zone.
corner.
Get me my pipes fighting SF1 Rhoads down into turn 1 into the braking zone. Get me my pipe makes that pass with his 4-lap fresher tires. SF1 Rhoads tried to come back at him on the outside but did not have the pace. Now it resets the top 3 as it looks like Ring Wraith has come right back up to the back of SF1 Rhoads with his much fresher tires. Behind him, MRC Loki has made the move on Slingshot, promoting himself to P4. And Ring Wraith all over the back of SF1 Rhoads throughout the short shoot down into that double right-hander. Let's see what happens through the S's. Wraith on much newer tires is going to have to bide his time throughout this second sector and throughout the stadium so he can make the move going down the front straightaway. But remember, there will be no DRS till lap 16. Or, excuse me, lap 17.
I've noticed out of all the drivers that are racing tonight, SF1 Rhoads and Ring Race cars both look extremely planted through the S's. Not that much faster on the straightaways and the faster, faster spots, but when it makes it to that S in Sector 2, they definitely change around. As Loki dives into the pits, I believe he's possibly serving his drive-through penalty.
Same with Like Me or Not. They both decided to serve their drive-through at this time. SF1 Rhoads getting very close to the back of Get Me My Pipe. With both these cars in front of him on older tires, they are much slower pace-wise than what Wraith is. Wraith needs to make a move on both these cars as soon as he can and check out and put time between them before he has to make his next stop.
We go through lap 16 out of 36 with 20 laps to go. SF1 Rhoads with 77% ERS. You have Get My Pipe. He is in overtake. He's trying to push as much as possible. He only has 38%. And SF1 Rhoads and Wraith seem like they are just really just sticking to the back of him like glue. They both have about 60 to 70% ERS. So if Get My Pipe keeps pushing as hard as he can, he could lose a lot of that time because he's burning out his ERS and will have nothing against these guys as they come through here. Get My Pipe dives into the pits. The question is when he dives into the pits, his DRS is enabled, which is going to help out Rhoads here as Jewel sets a new fast lap. Is Get My Pipe, is he going to change onto a different wing? You saw that, oh no, he's serving a drive-through.
When did he obtain a drive-through penalty?
I do not remember that as well. But here we have Wraith all over the back of SF1 Rhoads.
Yeah, whenever they went down the front straightaway, remember DRS enabled this lap, but it was not enabled when they went through the detection point in the stadium section, which means nobody was able to get it going going down the pit straight. So Wraith stayed right with SF1 Rhoads. Wraith still with a lot of battery charge left in that car. He's going to get a good run and stay right behind SF1 Rhoads on his much newer tires. This should be an easy pass for Wraith as they go down the front straightaway, but Wraith just needs to time it right and then drive away from Rhoads throughout this next lap. Wraith is going to have to make the pass and then use the entire rest of the lap to put at least a second between he and SF1 Rhoads in order to make this strategy work.
It's very true. What I've noticed is Wraith, his front wing must be higher as Jewel resets a new fast lap of the race. Wraith is really, when he gets on the back of SF1 Rhoads going through those S's, his car does not look unstable at all. When he goes through the S's, he could possibly get a really good run on Rhoads if he can stay on the back of all the way through the S's here, as he's got DRS again in the second section.
He gets DRS, but he's not in overtake deploying the ERS that he should be to make this overtake. He may be trying to force SF1 Rhoads into a mistake. Hound the back of the gearbox of the Red Bull until the Red Bull goes off and hurts himself, and then Wraith drives clear. But all the while he's doing this, Run the Jewels in the Renault is gaining on them. He's gained over a second on them throughout the last two laps. Exit.
Yep, and here he goes. Is he going to try? He's not. He's going to back out coming into the stadium section. Here he goes. He's tried everything he can. 4/10 back. Now, Jules on those soft compound tires. Now, 1.3 seconds as he's been setting pole position laps in, trying to get fast lap after fast lap, trying to catch up to these top three because he knows one of them are going to have to pit. Here, Ringwraith is 3/10 back. Trying to look at it, cannot make it stick.
Still not deploying overtake in his ERS. He's barely using any ERS. He's basically had between 60 and 73% in his battery throughout the past 5 laps. He's not using it to try to make the overtake. So is he hounding the Red Bull, trying to get it to make a mistake? Or has Haas made an agreement with Red Bull to try and help SF1 Rhoads finish off the championship today and become the Tier 3 champion?
That is definitely one of those things that we'd have to check. But now I've switched over to the view of SF1 Rhoads, like you keep talking about how Ringwraith not having a lot of that like not utilizing the ERS he has. Right now, SF1 Rhoads is at 0. He's already up to 85%. While even though Wraith is still is running it at medium, he's at 71%. So Rhoads is just toying with him. He's saying, look, I'm going to leave it at 0 when the tight, windy... Rhoads dives into the pits.
Here and that has really hurt Wraith. All the while, Wraith sat behind him. He was losing time because he wasn't running his full potential pace on those newer tires. So Wraith really hurting his race strategy to win this race while sitting behind the Red Bull. The Red Bull boxed and got a new set of... Did they put softs on his car?
They put softs on the car. Now, Loki is ahead of SF1 Rhoads. He is sitting 6th right now. Loki just got past ER10 Motorsports here through turn 1. Now, Rhoads will have
and Loki
the
can technically
tires.
go to the end. Well, Loki can technically go to the end, but Rhoads can't. I don't think that you can make the soft compound tires last 16 laps around here and have any sort of pace in the car whatsoever without even going off.
Now, Ringwraith has been able to stretch that gap from Jules, who's in 2nd place, to 1.4 seconds. Now, I believe Jules' tires is possibly falling off. Big Mr. Brown, who's also on the freshest hard compound tires, who pitted really early, is sitting 3rd compared to Get My Pipes 15 lap old and Slingshot 17 lap old hard compound tires.
And see, that's exactly what I was talking about. We just saw Wraith come through and set the new fastest lap time of the race. That showed that he was being held up by the Red Bull for those entire 6 laps to 7 laps that he sat there behind him. So now that Wraith has gotten clear of him, will he be able to bang out the times needed? Gunther Steiner really needs to get on the radio and tell him to push now before they come into box again.
As now Loki has gotten past Slingshot, like Mirnot has gotten past ER10, but right behind this whole entire group freight train is the championship leader, SF1 Rhoads, on those soft compound tires. He's 5/10 back from ER10, and he is hauling. He knows what he needs to do, and he is hauling. He is pushing as hard as he possibly can. Now, the question is he going to slice and dice these guys up here in the S's? A lot of them are looking very... Seems like their setup is very solid here as they go through the S sections. But Rhoads is definitely looking very racy now, which is usually weird. Usually we see him more conservative as he's trying to go around the outside of ER10, and he makes it work. He is definitely just making things happen here. Here he goes, Rhoads onto the back straight. DRS is open. It is. He's going to look for the inside on Like Me or Not. Like Me or Not switches back with Slingshot, almost taking the nose off the championship leader. As Like Me or Not, as Rhoads now gets past Slingshot.
like me or not, making a very, very gutsy move that there had to only have been inches between he and Rhoads when he yanked out. As soon as he yanked out, I thought that was going to be a wreck. That's how close they were. That was very, very, very ballsy.
I completely agree with you, but right now, like me or not, doesn't have slingshot in his way to try to hold back, SF1 Rhoads, and Rhoads is all over the back of the gearbox, or like me or not, on those 10-lap old medium compound tires. We're going to ride on board with SF1 Rhoads, see how his car is coming out of the S's. Very planted. He only has 82% ERS. He is on low. He is definitely working this track out. Come through the stadium section. He is 3/10 still on the back end of him.
Well, and that just shows you the pace that the Red Bull is running with today. Red Bull very good with the battery today as they come onto the front straight. He made a pass on a car and is now making another pass on a car with 70% battery still left in that car, and he automatically kicks it down and then kicks it right back up. So he's pushing. He is looking to try to make up as much ground as possible, because I think that he may know that he stopped a little too early on those tires, and now he's got way longer to go than what he expected. So now he needs to push as much as he can until his tires begin to give out.
Rhoads just went purple in Sector 1, and his championship competitor, Loki, is right in front of him, about 2.2 seconds, as Rhoads is really trying to push every inch and every part of that car to get the fastest lap here to close out it. But he did purple Sector 2, 1.6 seconds from his fastest time. As he goes into the stadium section, he has reeled in Loki to 9/10 on Loki's 11 old lap mediums. Here goes Rhoads, final corner. DRS open, 17.4 on those softs. DRS open all over the back of Loki. Goes on the inside.
Makes that pass cleanly. Just a quick little fun fact, Charles Leclerc set the fastest lap of the race here at Mexico last year, a 1:19, and we've now seen a 1:17.4. So that shows you just how much faster these cars are running around the track in the game versus how they actually are in real life. So SF1 Rhoads showing a lot of good pace on these brand new softs, but how long is that pace going to last? He's currently 18 seconds behind our leader. Our leader, Ring Wraith, should be boxing within about the next 2 to 3 laps if he wants to put on another set of softs.
Now SF1 Rhoads purple Sector 1 again. Let's see, did he purple Sector 2? It was a little bit late for me. No, he didn't. But he is all over the back of Get My Pipe on those 19-lap old hard compound tires. Now, I do know in the game, it states that the hards are able to go out to 23 laps. And he is already at 20 right now.
Well, don't forget, we saw Maverick in Tier 2 take his medium compound tires an astounding amount of laps. I believe it was something close to 24 or 25 laps at one of these tracks. And it was an insane amount of laps to do on that tire for that track. So we know that the game is not always right with its Pirelli tire predictions.
And as Loki gets a 3-second time penalty right now, and that's another thing we have to see what plays into a factor. We know SF1 Rhoads probably does not have a time penalty. That's what he's been known for, is not having any penalties. But what's it going to happen with the other drivers? We do know Big Mr. Brown got a couple 3-second time penalties. I know Get My Pipe has a 3-second time penalty. But now with this championship and how it's turning out, should SF1 Rhoads back off a little bit, or should he just keep pushing as much as he possibly can?
Well, SF1 Rhoads needs to try to get as far away from Loki as possible, because Loki's going to want to bring him back to him if he can, as we see SF1 Rhoads getting held up by the racing point of Get Me My Pipe. And SF1 Rhoads boxes.
So he is going to switch over back, I believe, back to the mediums, unless he's going to go for another set of softs, 10 laps on the softs. He is going for another set of softs.
Now this brings Ringwraith into a perfect position to win this race. Jules is just boxed as well for a set of softs, but he's going to get held up in all of this traffic. He's come out right behind Like Me or Not. So the Renault going to have to deal with that Toro Rosso directly in front of it as soon as it possibly can. Ringwraith needs to dive in and get a new set of tires this lap unless he wants to attempt to milk these old 14-lap old mediums all the way to the end, which I believe is possible. He has an 11-second gap to the closest car behind him, which is on hard compound tires. I don't believe Big Mr. Brown will be able to run him down, but it is very iffy. Does Wraith box and take the chance that Big Mr. Brown will not box and lose the win of this race? Everything is up in the air right now, strategy-wise.
Completely agree with you. We have less than 10 laps to go. You know, and like you were saying, Big Mr. Brown, 13-lap old hards. 8 laps newer than Get My Pipe on 21-lap old hard compound tires. Question is, how hard was Get My Pipe pushing on those hard compound tires, and whether or not are they going to fall off right at the end with the 3 to 4 laps to go if they stay out, as Jules gets past Like Me or Not down the main straight on those 1-lap old soft compound tires. Now with that, you have Loki, he's sitting 4th, SF1 Rhoads, he's sitting 9th on a brand new fresh set of soft compound tires. You do know SF1 Rhoads is going to push as hard as he can. Slingshot, looking very strong throughout this whole entire race. He's sitting 8th on 24-lap with hard compound tires. Like Me or Not still hanging in there. Question is who in this group is going to want to die, is going to, on these medium compound tires that are 15 to 18 laps old, are going to dive and change out to a different set of tires.
Well, just following along with Wraith's onboard throughout the past 2 laps, I've been watching him. He looks very planted. I think he's running enough wing and his suspension set up just right for this track. And I believe he's not running a very open diff. He's not getting a whole lot of rotation as you see him go into turn 1. The car looks very planted, very secure. Great change in direction out of that Haas this afternoon. I believe Wraith is going to take these tires all the way to the end. Big Mr. Brown has made up about half a second on him throughout the past 2 laps, but I don't see Big Mr. Brown getting that much more pace out of those hard compound tires to catch Wraith any more than what he has. So I believe Wraith will take these tires to the end and be our winner today.
As SF1 Rhoads has gotten past Slingshot on those 25-lap old hard compound tires, and Rhoads is pushing on those soft compound tires. We saw him show the pace earlier. Question is, how much further can he go? ER10 is on 19-lap old medium compound tires. Like Me or Not, 16-lap olds. Will they drop off as SF1 Rhoads tries to chase him, as he's now down to 5.6 seconds to ER10.
Just looking back up at the front, Ringwraith has BRL Maverick, one of our owners, on his pit wall today, according to Maverick. Maverick calling the strategy for Ringwraith, and it's worked so far. Maverick says they have called to go to the end on these medium compound tires. So Wraith, with 0 deployment going down the front straightaway, really just holding this car under him as much as he can, trying to stay consistent.
Loki dives into the pits. Looks like he's possibly going to switch over to softs. And so does Like Me or Not.
So is this a precursor? Is this a precursor? Everybody's tires are starting to fall off and have major issues? With only 7 laps to go, or excuse me, 8 laps to go in this race, does it warrant coming in if you're just a little bit slower, or were they having trouble keeping the car underneath them while going through Sector 2? Sector 2 is very, very tricky to get right with new tires, let alone with old tires, as we see Wraith go just a little wide on my screen just then throughout Sector 2. So will Wraith get very concerned with these tires as we get closer to the end and want to box?
That's definitely something that we're going to have to keep an eye on as we go through here. Now, with the strategy of these drivers of Loki and Lightmoon diving into the pits with soft, Loki will have 3-lap newer tires than SF1 Rhoads. We've seen Rhoads, he's been able to keep his tires in healthy shape, but he only took out his previous soft set to 6 laps. Now the question is what is Rhoads going to do now that he only has 3-lap old tires? We saw him dive in with 6, but we saw him pushing a lot more. The question is he going to be more conservative in this race or at the end of the race and at least still stay ahead of Loki, knowing that, you know, he's going to lock everything out? Now we have SF1.
Well, with SF1 Rhoads just in front of MRC Loki and Alfa Romeo, how does that affect the points championship?
As long as SF1 Rhoads finishes ahead of Loki, SF1 Rhoads wins the championship. Loki has to finish first.
So basically, unless there's another safety car and Loki pulls the rabbit out of his gearbox, we're looking at our new Tier 3 Formula 1 Breakout Racing League champion running around in the Renault.
Yes, but due to commentator curse, I will knock on wood so that doesn't happen. Because
I don't knock on wood because commentator curses are fun to watch. Makes for more exciting racing.
Well, then I guess we'll have to see if the commentator curse happens. As we have SF1 Rhoads all over the gearbox at ER10. He must be listening to the stream going, hey, I have to step it up. I have to push. As he has 100% ERS getting onto the main street. As he slaps it into overtake here.
It's going to be an easy overtake on the Ferrari. The Ferrari on 22-lap old medium compound tires. He's going to have to try to take those tires to the end as well, but he's really forcing the Red Bull's hand going down the straightaway as they come into the braking zone now. SF1 Rhoads gets it done, moves up to P5. Now he just needs to build a little bit of a gap between him and ER10 and set that car into cruise and bring this championship home for Red Bull.
And now we also have Run the Jewels. He's sitting fourth on 5-lap old soft compound tires behind Get My Pipe, who's on 26-lap old hard compound tires. See where Jules is as they're coming out of the S section. Can Jules put his car on the podium? As we look at this, we're going to look at the spread real quick of the race chart. Has Jules had his car on this could be the first podium that Jules had during this season. To be able to put that car.
It should be an easy podium. It should be an easy podium for Renault. The Racing Point in front of them going down the straightaway has 27-lap old hard compound tires on. He should not be able to hold the same pace as those softs. Even though the softs are aging, there's no way that Getting My Pipe should be able to hold on to that position.
As we see Get My Pipe constantly pulling away he has just got it slapped into overtake, 20% ERS, as he slaps it back down to none, trying to conserve as much as he can. Same with Jules, back down to none. We have 4 laps.
Just back up to the front real quick. Ringwraith has actually extended his lead by over a second to Big Mr. Brown. So Wraith, very commanding job today in the cockpit of the Haas. Just needs to continue on for another 4 laps and bring this one home and have a very happy Monday afternoon.
As Like Me or Not gets a 3-second time penalty. The question is now that I think about that, does Jules have a 3-second time penalty? If he doesn't, then that means that will allow Jules to jump him and get into that podium spot.
Just looking on Jules' race director, according to the race director, he has 1 warning. So he could make a couple mistakes yet and still get past Get Me My Pipe for position on track. I'll quickly check in on Get Me My Pipe's penalties if he has any.
As Loki gets
so Get Me My Pipe has a penalty and 2 warnings. He did serve that drive-through, and he has another warning. Unsure as why it's not giving me the time.
as Loki now gets past ER10 Motorsports, and as he's trying to reel in SF1 Rhoads. Jump back.
So Loki must know that Get Me My Pipe has a 3-second time penalty added to the end of his race, and that's why he's not pushing to get by the racing point in front of him. But let's not forget, that racing point also served a drive-through penalty. So for him to be up here at the front of this race at the end is a very good showing.
Completely agree with you. Now, the toss-up is, now, can you please check to see what the penalty situation of Wraith and with Big Mr. Brown possibly is? Because if Big Mr. Brown has a lot of time. I believe I saw his name at least 2 times, and he's only 9 seconds back behind Get My Pipe. So if Jules does like a last 2 laps, jump ahead of Get My Pipe, push, and then all of a sudden it happens to be over 9 seconds, and that means Jules could be on second in the race. You see Jules still 6/10 back from Get My Pipe. He's really not trying anything. The question is how much is that chewing up his front tires here?
So Big Mr. Brown has 8 seconds of penalties.
Hopefully, Big Mr. Brown.
One of those 5-second penalties came early in the race, so I'm not sure if he served it during one of his stops or not.
Definitely have to keep an eye on that. As we have a yellow sector 3, looks like Loki lost it a little bit going into the stadium section. What a shame on him. He was definitely trying to keep the fight alive with SF1 Rhoads here at the Mexican Grand Prix.
Wraith with 2 laps to go in this race. Now basically a lap and a half for him as we see him go through the S's in Sector 2. He's lost about a second over Big Mr. Brown, but in all actuality, if the penalties sort out the way I believe they will, Big Mr. Brown is in all actuality 18 seconds behind our current leader. So Ringwraith really needs to just chuck this car into 0 and not take any risk throughout the final lap of this race and come home a winner. SF1 Rhoads has done a great job with his Red Bull to position it well throughout the race and stay out of trouble. Started on the mediums and then boxed for softs and then boxed for softs again, running the 2-stop strategy and making it work for him. He started well down the ladder on the grid and has rose up to P5. Now all he needs to do is keep this position and have no mistakes, and he will become the Tier 3 BRL champion.
And what an amazing race the Red Bull drivers have done to lock out the Constructors' Championship throughout this whole entire season. I'm sure Rhoads would have loved to still have, Mitch here to race, even though Mitch's wheel is out. And we did hear word that he ordered a new one. And yeah, I mean, it'd be definitely, definitely watching Rhoads progress throughout the season with no assists as he's been moving up and trying to catch everybody. As we're watching Wraith now coming into the stadium section, up to the final turns to finish here at the Mexican Grand Prix. Here he goes, one more turn to go.
The confetti and smoke flies throughout the stadium section. Haas has put it all together today for their driver. The pit wall calling all the right calls. Wraith will come through to be your winner. So from pole to win, and I believe he may hold the fastest lap unless SF1 Rhoads has taken that from him. He might have the full sweep for this weekend. Big Mr. Brown comes through in second, but Get Me My Pipe is going to come through in third, but he's going to be jumped by the Renault driver of Run the Jules 24 after the penalties come through. SF1 Rhoads, your BRL Formula 1 Tier 3 champion for this season. comes through to finish 5th in the Red Bull. What a celebrated day this will be for him. Like me or not, the Toro Rosso had a lot of issues earlier on. He comes through in 6th. ER10 Motorsport in the Ferrari comes through in 7th. And in 8th place is going to be MRC Loki and Slingshot, our Mercedes driver, rounding out the final drivers to bring it all home and close out this Grand Prix. What a wonderful race this was. What a wonderful championship this has been to follow along with, wouldn't you say?
It's been amazing to watch these drivers develop as they've gone through here. What a stunning show race has been able to showcase, especially in that Haas. And then, stretching out those medium compound tires. We were kind of wondering what Rhoads was going to do there. We thought Rhoads may have dove into the pits, changed up the strategy. I thought Rhoads was going to go into the harder compound tires, but I think he kind of knew if he had just stayed out in the softs, he'd be able to, somewhat try what he can best to do to lock it out. We're going to run through the final grid here of the drivers. Ring Wraith finishing as your overall winner in this race in first. Big Mr. Brown second. Run the Jewels third. Get Me My Pipe fourth. SF1 Rhoads fifth. Like Me or Not sixth. ER10 Motorsport seventh. Loki eighth. Slingshot ninth. Mad Marlin, what a shame on him between him and Wrathful. We're definitely going to have to see what happens next week with that based on the information. Cannon King finishing 12th. Sexy 9 13th as those guys DNF. As we now have the drivers coming into the booth that we will be doing our interview with, but we're also going to get one extra gentleman here in with us, and that is the Tier 3 champion. At the end of the interview, we're going to ask him a few questions.
I have already sent him a few invites, yet to have him join the party yet. But for the other people that we've brought into the broadcast booth with us, if you would please make sure you hit the checkbox at the top of the party so that we can do our podium interviews. Wonderful driving from all three of you. If I could start off with the podium interviews, I'd like to interview Jules. Jules taking the tires to almost the limit before you decide to swap over. Run us through that race with Renault at the Mexican Grand Prix.
I just tried to hang on to it as much as I could. With Marlin retiring, I just figured I'd finish, and I didn't have any penalties, so I got Get Me My Pipe at the end. So I was just hanging out behind him because I knew I wasn't going to catch Brown or Ring Wraith.
Now, Jules, we saw you kind of change up your strategy a little bit as you're getting closer towards the end, and you went onto those soft compound tires. We were kind of curious on whether or not you were going to try to get past Get My Pipe and then try to push for that possible second place. You try to close in the gap due to the drivers with penalties. Towards the end, were you just kind of like, Get My Pipe's got a penalty. I'm just going to sit back here and just relax then?
Yeah, this is exactly what I did.
Well, that's awesome to see that Renault, of course, had a very strong finish. With you finishing, this is your first podium for the Tier 3 during the Tier 3 season, and I'd like to say congratulations to you.
Thank you, sir.
Definitely going to move you up the list in here in the point standings, of course. And now that we're going to move over to Big Mr. Brown. I'm going to take this one over, but during the race, we saw you pit early for those hard compound tires, and it seemed like throughout all the safety cars, throughout all the virtual safety cars, it really played into a huge factor for you to finish second. Was it just pretty much, hold on as to dear life throughout the whole entire race?
Yeah, toward the end there, that's what it got to be. Honestly, the start of the race was not so good for me. Got punted from behind. I actually got wing damage on the first lap, and I got punted from behind and spun. I'm not sure who did it, but I think it was Marlin, and he actually waited on the side, let me pass to give me the place back, which was awesome. But after a few safety cars, a couple of safety cars, the last safety car, I realized that everyone was on softer tires. They would have to pit again. Thought I could run those hards till the end, so I decided to pit onto hards and just run them out to the end, thinking that our first place here was going to pit, but I realized around lap 29 that I was going to have to start stepping it up a little bit if I wanted to catch him anytime soon. And I actually made a couple of pretty bad mistakes in the S's, and luckily I caught them and didn't retire, and I stayed on track. But I lost a few seconds in the process, so I'll take second happily after being last place after that safety car. So.
Well, I have to say congratulations on your race. This, I believe, is going to be your first podium that you've had for the actual. You in Singapore you were fourth, and then for Mexico here with your second place. Definitely a very strong showing for McLaren, and I will let Aldifer talk to our winner of the Mexican Grand Prix.
Because I've been watching him the entire race, really wondering what the strategy was there, Wraith. During the first safety car, we were wondering why you didn't pull in. We were watching on board with you when the first safety car came out. You had the time to go into the pit lane to box for another set of tires, but you chose not to, and then ran them all the way out to basically the end of their life, boxed for a new set of mediums, and then went all the way to the end on those tires, mate. What a strategy. What made you run that strategy? How was that call made? And just walk us through your entire race.
Man, the way everything lined up throughout the whole entire race really set that strategy up. The first safety car was on lap 4, and I was like, man, if I pit now, I gotta pit later. And I was just so drawn, and by the time I made it by, I saw everyone behind me. I was like, oh, well, I guess I just kind of lost out. But if making it all the way through and that second safety car came out, I think it was like lap 12 or 13. By the time it went back to green, I knew if I was able to get on the mediums, I could at least hold out till the end. I did have a little bit of help from one or two other people that kind of helped me make sure that strategy was going to work. And like you said, man, like I ran those tires till they were dead. The sauce were almost at 80%, and those mediums right there at the end were like mid-60s. Like I put everything I could. I even ran out of gas coming to the line. But
well, tell us what it
all I
was
have to
like
say-
having one of the owners, BRL Maverick, on your pit wall for this race. How did that affect you positively or negatively throughout the entire race?
It was positive. He was the one that I kept talking to about the strategy on like when to go, should I go now? Pretty much was just like debating when to pit for tires, and just when he said, yeah, if you go now, you should be fine. I kind of trusted that, took it, and it worked out. He gave me a little bit of coaching through it and was kind of just there to, I guess, be supportive for me. And hey, it turned into my first win, so I can't complain about it.
Well, going from pole with that beautiful quali lap that you had and that incident with Mad Marlin during qualifying, none of us are really sure what happened there. Could you walk us through that?
I'm not really sure either. I was all the way on the right side of the racetrack just trying to get out of everyone's way to make sure I didn't mess up anyone's hot laps because I didn't know who was behind me or who was still going. So I just wanted to make sure I was out of the way. But when he came towards me, I just had to jerk it a little bit to the right, and he just went on the right side of me. I honestly don't think it was supposed to be ill intent. I think he was just trying to give me a little bump like, hey, good job. You got right there with me, because we were only like, I think, 4 thousandths of a second difference on time. So, I mean, to be that close to him, but then unfortunately it gave him that grid penalty, and I saw him retire. It sucks I couldn't race him because it probably would have been a lot more exciting racing throughout the race. But I'm just kind of glad it worked out in my favor, I guess.
Well, we appreciate you being here. Next week, we're going to Brazil, so we hope to see you put up another strong performance there. You really dominated the racetrack today, just staying out of trouble and keeping your nose clean in the Haas. So great job. Can't wait to see you next week. I'm going to hand it back over to BRL Exia to interview a very, very special driver that has joined our party. Exia?
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to congratulate the 3 drivers that finished on the podium, their first podiums, but at the same time, the one and the only SF1 Rhoads for winning the Tier 3 Breakout Racing League Championship. SF1 Rhoads, what is going on in your mind right now winning the championship?
I don't want to take anything away from those guys that were on the podium tonight. They were flying, and my strategy was, I thought my strategy would play off, but it didn't. The safety cars definitely played a factor into that, but those guys were absolutely on fire. So, the top three guys tonight, you guys definitely deserved it.
And I mean, spoken like a true gentleman. I'm going to say with class. Definitely not trying to take anything away from the top drivers. The question is SF1 Rhoads going to keep pushing through Brazil and through Dubai, or is he just going to sit back and relax and just go on cruise control for the rest of the season? And the other question for a lot of the other people and the viewers that are watching is Wraith going to go to Mexico, and is he going to hire BRL Maverick to win the next two races, being on the pit wall? And then is this also a new sign for Big Mr. Brown, knowing that all he has to do is one stop it to get on the podium? That is definitely something we're going to have to wait to see throughout the rest of the season. And Jules, we hope to see you more on the podium.
I'll add one more thing.
Yes.
I don't want to
go for it.
ruin anything. Okay. So this entire season, I don't know if a lot of people know, but my wife is pregnant for our first child, and I've been pushing this entire season just like she's due in July, so I was hoping that I could get this in. So this is basically for them putting up with me to do this. This is, for my wife and my unborn child, which is a girl, but I mean, all the love to them. I really appreciate them for letting me do this, but to all the other guys for letting me race with them, I really appreciate it.
Hey man, I was in the same boat as you last year. I know that exact feeling. I wasn't racing for a championship, but I knew it was going to be my last season where I could actually push full time because my first child was on the way. And it's really a life changer, but it's good that you've gotten this championship out of the way and squared away with two races still to go in this championship technically. So now moving on to the next two races, how are you going to perform there? Are you really going to be worried about it and push for wins, or are you going to just push to be consistent, or will you even show up now that you've got it squared away? Will Red Bull tell you can take the next 2 weeks off?
I signed up for the season, so I'll definitely be there if I can. I'm not going to back out of the two last races. As far as pushing, I'll push if I can, but everybody knows I'm terrible at qualifying. So if the guys are a lot quicker than me ahead, I'm just going to be consistent and have the battles on track that I can without implementing anybody's races like Wraith tonight and a couple of the other guys like Get Me My Piper right behind me. I didn't want to ruin any of their races. I just look forward to it now. It's like a chip off the shoulder.
Well, congratulations on the Tier 3 championship. Congratulations on becoming a father. Definitely, happy for all of you guys also on the podium for your guys' first time. But we are
get ready to not play Formula One for a few months.
we are
lucky I got the beta for 2020, so I've had a sneak peek, but that's about it.
We are running a
That's
little
all you're going to
bit
get for
late.
about 7 months.
Yeah.
So we are going to be calling it here shortly. I just want to say thank you to all the viewers and the drivers who